Word, strongly. Description, means with great force or intensity. It describes feelings, opinions, or actions that are emphasized or expressed with considerable strength. It is used to show that something is felt or believed with conviction. Phrases of example. First, I felt strongly that he was lying to me. Second, she strongly believed in the power of forgiveness. Third, he argued strongly for the rights of the accused. Word, client. Description, refers to someone who employs a professional for services. This could be a lawyer, a business consultant, or any other service provider. It signifies a business relationship where one party pays for expertise or assistance. Phrases of example. First, a good client is a friend, and a friend is a good client. Second, my client was innocent, and I was determined to prove it. Third, the client always comes first. That's the golden rule. Word, historian. Description, a person who studies and writes about the past, especially human history. They analyze events, people, and societies from previous times, often using documents and artifacts to construct narratives and interpretations of the past. Phrases of example. First, the historian's job is to show how things happened. Second, he was a historian, searching for the lost stories. Third, the historian cannot be objective, only honest. Word, ballot. Description, a formal paper or card used as a vote in an election. It signifies a structured method for expressing a choice, often in a political or organizational setting. It implies a system of voting or selection. Phrases of example. First, she walked into the polling place, a silent ballot in her hand. Second, the ballot is stronger than the bullet. Third, every ballot is a prayer for a better world. Word, cooker. Description, a kitchen appliance used for cooking food. It can refer to an oven, a slow cooker, or any device that applies heat to prepare meals. It's a common term for something that cooks food. Phrases of example. First, her mother bought a new cooker for the kitchen. Second, the cooker hissed and sputtered, filling the kitchen with steam. Third, the old cooker was a relic of a bygone era, but it still worked well. Word, enthusiast. Description, a person with a strong interest or passion for something. It indicates someone who is keenly interested, devoted, or excited about a particular activity, hobby, or subject. It often implies a deep level of knowledge or involvement. Phrases of example. First, he was a dedicated enthusiast of antique clocks, spending hours tinkering with their intricate mechanisms. Second, a music enthusiast, she devoured every new release and followed her favorite bands across the country. Third, the young botanist, an enthusiastic student of plant life, eagerly cataloged each specimen. Word, bulk. Description, refers to a large, substantial amount or mass of something. It can describe physical quantities like goods or materials, or it can refer to a significant portion or majority of something abstract, like opinions or data. Phrases of example. First, the bulk of their efforts went into refining the system. Second, the bulk of his income was invested in the company. Third, the bulk of the evidence pointed to his guilt. Word, state. Description refers to a country or nation, like the United States of America. It can also mean a condition or situation, such as a state of happiness. It's often used when discussing geography, politics, or someone's condition. Phrases of example. First, the state of things at home was not pleasant. Second, it is the state of your mind that matters. Third, the state of the nation is the state of the people. Word, hardly. Description means almost not or barely. It indicates that something is scarce, infrequent, or just barely present. It can express surprise or doubt about a situation or a statement, often implying a negative outcome. Phrases of example. First, I hardly knew him, yet I felt a strange connection. Second, he hardly noticed the rain as he walked along. Third, I hardly think that's right. Don't you agree? Word current. Description describes something happening now or up to date. It can refer to a flow of water or electricity, or describe information, trends, or situations that are present and relevant at this time. It signifies something ongoing or existing presently. Phrases of example. First, the currents of fate rarely run smooth. Second, the current situation is more complex than we initially believed. Third, she felt the current of his gaze upon her. Word swim. Description refers to the activity of moving through water using your body. It can also describe a body of water suitable for swimming, like a pool or lake. It signifies the action or the place where that action takes place. Phrases of example. First, I must swim, and I must swim far. Second, I wanted to swim in the sea, but I was afraid of drowning. Third, the fish began to swim, circling around the boat. Word handling. Description refers to the way something is dealt with or managed. It describes the process of controlling, operating, or taking care of a situation, object, or person. It can imply skill, care, or the method used in a specific process. Phrases of example. First, the handling of this situation requires utmost care and diplomacy. Second, his handling of the financial crisis showed remarkable skill. Third, the delicate handling of cultural differences is paramount. Word tour. Description, a guided visit of a place, often for sightseeing or showing off attractions. It can be a planned route to see important landmarks or a performance showcasing talent. It indicates an organized viewing or journey. Phrases of example. First, I took a tour of the grounds, and they were quite impressive. Second, we shall take a tour of the castle, I assure you, and see its finest treasures. Third, they went on a tour of the old city, each lost in their own thoughts. Word spot. Description, a specific place or area, often one that's easily identifiable. It can refer to a location on a map, a visible mark, or a place where something is found. It's frequently used to indicate precision or identification of a place. Phrases of example. First, I'm a spot of trouble. Second, he found a spot of quiet under the old oak tree. Third, there's a spot where the sunlight hits just right. Word appeal. Description refers to a request for a decision to be reviewed by a higher authority. It can also mean something attractive or interesting. It's often used in legal contexts, but also to describe qualities that attract or entice. Phrases of example. First, she had an appeal that was not of this world, a quality that set her apart. Second, he had a natural appeal, a charisma that drew people to him like a magnet. Third, the land had a wild appeal, a beauty that was both dangerous and alluring. Word fix. Description means to repair something that is broken or damaged. It can also mean to find a solution to a problem or to arrange something. It's a common word used when something isn't working correctly or needs adjusting. Phrases of example. First, fix this broken promise, and all will be well. Second, I need to fix this situation as soon as possible. Third, we need to fix the roof before the winter. Word his. Description, a possessive determiner showing ownership by a male. It indicates that something belongs to him, used before a noun to show possession, like his book or his car. Phrases of example. First, his eyes were the color of the sea, deep and mysterious. Second, he felt a strange sadness, a burden his heart could not bear. Third, his voice was low and steady, a reassuring presence in the storm. Word circuit. Description refers to a closed path or route, often electrical or electronic, where current flows. It can also describe a journey or route that passes through multiple places. It's used when talking about routes, systems, or cycles. Phrases of example. First, the circuit of our days runs us round, as round a dial. Second, a closed circuit in the brain can become a prison. Third, the circuit of the city with its endless possibilities. Both excited and terrified him. Word, weather. Description introduces two possibilities or alternatives. It is used to express a choice between options, uncertainty, or to ask a question about which of two things is the case. It connects clauses showing two possible outcomes. Phrases of example. First, whether it is right or wrong to choose a path is not for me to decide. Second, whether you believe it or not, I'm here to help. Third, whether you win or lose, you're still learning. Word, donor. Description, a person or organization that contributes money, materials, or other resources to a person or cause. It often refers to charitable giving or support for a project, research, or individual in need. It denotes generosity and contribution. Phrases of example. First, their generosity was a true testament to the selfless donor's spirit. Second, he saw himself as a donor of hope, a provider of dreams. Third, the hospital sought a matching donor to save the patient's life. Word, hate. Description, to feel very strong dislike for someone or something. It expresses a negative feeling, often intense, toward a person, place, or thing. It's a common word used to describe strong negative emotions. Phrases of example. First, I hate to tell you, but this is not how it will be. Second, I hate the sound of my own voice. Third, I hate people who are not interested in poetry. Word, illustration. Description, a drawing, diagram, or photograph that explains or adds visual interest to a text. It can be used to clarify a complex idea or simply enhance the overall presentation of information. It's often found in books, magazines, or online articles. Phrases of example. First, the illustration of a raven perched on a branch, with an expression of grim despair. Second, the illustration showed a small warn. Third, a simple illustration can convey so much more than words. Word, chart. Description means to make a graph or diagram to show statistical data. It's often used in business or science to visually represent trends, progress, or relationships between different variables. The chart helps in understanding complex information. Phrases of example. First, he charted a course for adventure, fearless and bold. Second, she charted a new life for herself, filled with hope. Third, the captain charted the treacherous waters with care. Word, kind. Description describes someone or something that is friendly, generous, and considerate. It suggests a positive and helpful nature, often implying warmth and empathy in interactions. It can also refer to a type or sort of something. Phrases of example. First, the best and most truly noble quality of mankind is kindness. Second, a kind heart is the best dress. Third, be kind to one another and forgive each other. Word, stay. Description, to remain in a place or situation. It means to continue being somewhere or doing something. It describes a position or action that lasts for a period of time. It's a basic verb for indicating presence or continuation. Phrases of example. First, I will stay here if it is only for a moment. Second, he chose to stay and fight, even though he knew he would lose. Third, you must stay strong, even when things are difficult. Word, battle. Description, a fight or struggle, often involving armed forces. It can also describe a conflict or struggle against an opponent or a difficult challenge. It is used when referring to a fight, contest, or a difficult situation requiring effort. Phrases of example. First, a terrible and beautiful battle for the soul. Second, the whole world was a battlefield. Third, he was a man who lived his life in a constant battle. Word, petrol. Description refers to gasoline, the fuel used in cars. It's a common substance used to power vehicles and is frequently purchased at gas stations. It's a basic term related to transportation and everyday life. Phrases of example. First, he checked the petrol gauge, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. Second, the car needed petrol, and she didn't have any money. Third, he siphoned petrol from the abandoned car, careful not to be seen. Word, exact. Description means precise and accurate. It describes something that is completely correct and without any mistakes or differences. It is used when referring to numbers, details, or measurements that must be correct. Phrases of example. First, the exact location of the treasure remained a mystery. Second, he gave me an exact date for his return. Third, this is the exact moment we'd been waiting for. Word, priest. Description, a person who performs religious ceremonies and offers spiritual guidance within a church or religious institution. This role often involves leading worship, providing counseling, and representing a faith community. Phrases of example. First, the priest said nothing, but his eyes were full of sorrow. Second, he was a priest and a man of God, though not always a good one. Third, the old priest was a man of simple pleasures. Word, future. Description refers to the time that is yet to come. It describes events, plans, or possibilities that will happen later. It is used when talking about what will occur after the present time. Phrases of example. First, the future belonged to those who believed in the beauty of their dreams. Second, the future is always shifting, always changing. Third, there is always a future, even after the darkest night. Word, pastor. Description, a religious leader, typically a male, who leads a Christian church or congregation. It signifies a position of spiritual guidance and leadership within a religious community, often involving preaching, teaching, and pastoral care. Phrases of example. First, the congregation looked to their pastor for guidance in these trying times. Second, he was a reluctant pastor, burdened by the weight of his flock's expectations. Third, the pastor offered a quiet strength, a beacon of hope amidst the community's despair. Word, alive. Description means being full of life, not dead. It describes a state of being in existence, actively living and experiencing life. It contrasts with being deceased or inactive, indicating vitality and presence. Phrases of example. First, it's a wonder to me that I am still alive. Second, to be alive is to be in love, and to be in love is to be alive. Third, the world is a terrible place, but to be alive in it is a terrible and beautiful thing. Word, sock. Description, a covering for the foot, usually made of knit or woven material. It's worn with or without shoes and comes in many colors and patterns. It's a common item of clothing, often worn in pairs. Phrases of example. First, he pulled his socks up, a nervous gesture against the chill. Second, she wore one red sock and one blue sock, a small act of rebellion. Third, he felt the familiar lump of his lucky sock in his pocket. Word, eat. Description, to put food into your mouth, chew it, and swallow it. It describes the action of consuming food for nourishment. It is a basic action related to survival and enjoyment. Phrases of example. First, I eat my bread in peace, and not by violence. Second, they sat down to eat and talk about their day. Third, she did not eat, did not sleep, and did not speak. Word, soldier. Description, a person who fights for their country or in an army. It describes someone trained in combat and part of a military force. It can also refer to someone brave or strong, even outside of a military context. Phrases of example. First, he was a soldier, and soldiers are not supposed to feel pity. Second, the soldier knew what he must do, and he did it without hesitation. Third, a soldier's life is a life of hardship and sacrifice. Word, restaurant. Description, a place where you can eat food that is cooked and served to you. It's a business providing meals for customers, often with tables and chairs for dining. Phrases of example. First, I'm going to the restaurant to get some food. Second, we went to the restaurant and ordered some pizza. Third, I had lunch at a small restaurant near the bookstore. Word gear. Description refers to equipment or machinery designed for a specific function or to be prepared for a particular activity. It can also mean to fit or coordinate different parts together to work effectively as a whole, often used in technical or specialized contexts. Phrases of example. First, the car's complex gear system showed his aptitude for engineering. Second, he shifted into a higher gear, determined to surpass his rivals. Third, the machine's intricate gear ratios controlled the power output. Word approve. Description means to officially or formally agree to something. It suggests giving permission or expressing support for a plan, proposal, or action. It's often used in formal contexts like business or government. Phrases of example. First, the one thing you can't approve of is yourself. Second, he would never approve of me, and he would never approve of anyone. Third, the king had to approve of the law before it could be put into effect. Word happen. Description means something occurs or takes place. It describes an event without explaining why or how it occurred. It is a general term for events that occur, often unexpectedly. Phrases of example. First, things will happen that you cannot foresee. Second, whatever happens, I will face it all the same. Third, nothing good will ever happen to you if you don't take chances. Word consent. Description denotes agreement or permission for something to happen. It signifies voluntary and informed agreement, often required legally or ethically. It implies a clear and willing acceptance of a proposal, action, or situation. Phrases of example. First, his consent was withheld until further notice. Second, without their consent, we could not proceed with the experiment. Third, she gave her consent to the marriage proposal. Word fill. Description means to make something full or to put something into an empty space. It describes the action of adding something until there's no more room. It's used when adding liquid, objects, or people to a container or area. Phrases of example. First, the world is filled with suffering, but also with hope. Second, fill your life with love and laughter, and you will be happy. Third, fill the bowl with water and throw in some rice. Word worker. Description, a person who does a job or is employed to do work. It describes someone who performs tasks, often in exchange for money or other compensation. It is a general term for someone who is employed. Phrases of example. First, he was a farm worker, strong and dependable. Second, the poor worker is often exploited. Third, a diligent worker deserves his reward. Word chamber. Description, a distinct room or compartment, often within a larger structure. It can refer to a formal, enclosed space, like in a building or a mine. The word suggests a sense of containment or separation from other areas. Phrases of example. First, a small chamber, scarcely able to contain them, served as our meeting place. Second, the royal chamber held the weight of centuries. Third, she retreated to her private chamber, seeking solace. Word need. Description refers to something that is required or necessary. It describes a lack of something essential, like food, help, or an item. It is used to express a requirement or a deficiency. Phrases of example. First, there is a great need for compassion in this world. Second, the need for love is as strong as the need for food. Third, I need to know what you're thinking. Word sponsor. Description refers to a person or organization that provides financial or other support to an event, person, or organization. It signifies providing assistance, often in exchange for advertising or recognition. It indicates patronage and backing for a cause or activity. Phrases of example. First, the university sought a sponsor for its new initiative. Second, he was a generous sponsor of the arts and sciences. Third, we need a sponsor for the team to buy new equipment. Word, fully. Description means completely or entirely. It emphasizes that something is present or achieved to the greatest possible extent. It's used to describe a state, action, or quality that is total and without reservation. Phrases of example. First, fully aware of his peril, he pressed on. Second, she fully embraced the challenge before her. Third, he felt fully invested in their success. Word, electronics. Description refers to devices and systems using electrical circuits to function. It includes items like computers, phones, and appliances. The term describes the field of study and the products themselves, often involving complex technology. Phrases of example. First, the allure of electronics and digital devices is undeniable. Second, she examined the advanced electronics, a futuristic marvel. Third, electronics were seamlessly integrated into their daily lives. Word, moreover. Description introduces additional information that strengthens or supports a previous statement. It signals that you're adding another point to what you're already saying, often building upon a previous idea or argument for emphasis. Phrases of example. First, moreover, she could not bear the thought of his leaving her. Second, moreover, the city was not what it used to be. Third, moreover, he found the silence almost unbearable. Word, cheap. Description means having a low price or costing very little money. It can also describe something of low quality, but usually refers to the affordability of an item or service. It's a simple way to describe something that doesn't cost much. Phrases of example. First, it was a cheap place to live, but it was home. Second, a cheap trick, that's all it was. Third, he bought a cheap watch and wore it every day. Word, pirate. Description denotes someone who attacks and robs ships at sea, historically. Now, it also describes someone who illegally copies and distributes copyrighted material online. It carries connotations of lawlessness and unauthorized use. Phrases of example. First, the pirate's code demanded a certain honor, a peculiar justice. Second, he's a pirate, a roughneck, a scoundrel, and a rogue. Third, the memory of the pirate ship rose like a phantom.